vinyl community, this is Tommy and welcome to another musical adventure. Today's adventure is a discussion. And before we get started, this is my third attempt at this video. Not that that means anything to you. The first one was 20 minutes. The second was about 12 minutes. I'm going to try to keep this one under 10 minutes. If you haven't tuned into my channel before and this is your first time checking it out, thanks. Thanks for watching. Hey, hit the subscribe button. You know how these YouTube things work. Thanks for the support. If you haven't subscribed to my channel, please do so. Glad to have you along. So today is a discussion about the band Weezer. I've been listening to a lot of Weezer lately, and I started thinking, and it's sort of been a weird thing kind of going on in my mind. But Weezer is a band that formed in 1992. Weezer has been around in some form or other for almost 30 years. Now, their debut album, produced by the great Rick Ocasek, released in 1994 on the David Geffen label, self-titled Weezer, now known as the Blue Album. Now, I bought this album when I was in college. I bought it before the massive, massive hit song, Buddy Holly. That song in the mid-90s, those of you who remember, all over MTV. The video, directed by Spike Jonze, featured the guys playing at Al's on Happy Days. Really kind of a cool video, a fun song. Well, I was into Weezer, and I thought they were great. Came out of that whole sort of grunge, alternative sort of thing that was happening in the early 90s. Weezer played a little bit more into the pop side of it, power pop, pop punk, whatever you want to call it. But it was the songs were very polished. They were tight. Heavy guitar driven, great melodies, and kind of goofy lyrics. Lyrically, they sung about Dungeons and Dragons and just these sort of odd things that a lot of bands at that time really weren't singing about. Everything was really kind of serious and heavy. And so the band followed up that successful album 2 years later with an album called Pinkerton. And I didn't grab it, I didn't show it because I want to keep it short. But Pinkerton was not as widely regarded because by that point, a lot of those guitar-driven bands had started to sort of fall out of favor with audiences. We saw the rise of groups like the Spice Girls and the Britney Spears was coming up. That kind of music was kind of taking over, whereas sort of the guitar-driven stuff was on its way out. So when Pinkerton came out, Pinkerton was much more raw, emotionally and musically. It just really, it struck a nerve with people. Now, it did make several year-end best-of lists, but sales-wise didn't really do anything. And there were fans like me that bought that album that loved it. Just thought it was great. I thought they'd even bettered the first album. Well, Rivers and the guys sort of withdrew at that point. Spent the next few years, Rivers went back to college. There was like, you know, not sure if there was going to be any Weezer. 2001, they got back with Rick Ocasek, released another self-titled album, this time the Green Album because it had a green cover. And very short, very concise album, but full, again, of those great poppy, hooky songs that Rivers was capable of writing. More of a throwback to that Blue Album and less of that sort of raw emotion of Pinkerton. Now, Rivers later said that he felt like that music was inappropriate, that it was too, it was just too exposed for him. Now, he later came to grips with some of that stuff because it's such a beloved album, but it was an album that he didn't feel, you know, that was appropriate. And maybe it was because of the sort of commercial failure of the album. Now, that album grew as years went on, and people started to get into it, and people that heard it realized that it's a great album. But Rivers kind of went more in this sort of, hey, I'm going to write catchy pop songs. So the band really since 2001 have been touring and releasing music. Now, this is sort of the discussion that I want to have about Weezer. Because it seems to me that Weezer's one of those bands that really never gets really mentioned or never gets as regarded as I think they probably should be. Rivers a great songwriter. I think those that listen to Weezer and listen to Rivers' music can tell you, you know, he's one of the great pop songwriters, I think, of our time, and particularly of the last 30 years. But they're not a band that people kind of hold this high esteem for, yet they still are able to tour and release music. This year, in 2022, we're on the eve of them releasing their Seasons project, SZNZ. A couple of days ago, they released a new single, A Little Bit of Love, for the spring, coming out again for the spring, and then they're going to do one summer, autumn, and winter. And so it's a pretty ambitious project musically, I would think. And just looking at the last two albums that Weezer did, and I grabbed these. Fan Weezer was the last album, and then before that was OK Human. These two albums alone, I don't think if you spun them back to back and played them, you would even realize it was the same band. They're the kind of group that really is not afraid to sort of let it hang out musically. They're not really what I would classify as experimental. You're not going to probably hear the psychedelic Weezer album, but everything's sort of rooted in these sort of great, catchy pop songs. But yet, stylistically, they've gone into more of a sort of hip direction. Now, in 2005, they teamed up with Rick Rubin, released an album called Make Believe, which seemed to be really kind of, I think, the breaking point for Weezer for a lot of fans, because there was a single on that album, a hit single called Beverly Hills, and a lot of people really, really despise that song. I'm not sure why. I think it's a fine song. It's not the greatest thing I've ever heard, but I don't like run screaming from the radio trying to turn it off or anything when I hear it. It's okay. I like it. But, you know, what do I know? But there's a lot of Weezer to me that to me is sort of based in that sort of goofy, nerdy kind of stuff, and it goes all the way back to the Blue Album. And this is the thing, like someone was telling me the other day, that, well, the problem with Weezer is that everybody grew up, but Rivers didn't. It's like Rivers is still trying to be kind of hip and speak to kids. Maybe, I don't know though. And I was listening to the self-titled album called The White Album recently, and I'll say this, the White Album is every bit as good as the Blue Album. All the things that we love about the Blue Album are present on the White Album. So I don't know that Rivers has really changed. We may have changed, but Rivers hasn't. Maybe that's what we don't like, is that Rivers hasn't changed. Maybe we want Rivers to change. I don't know. But what do you think about Weezer? Yay or nay? Friend or foe? Where's Weezer? Are they underrated? Are they about right? Overrated? Are they a great band? Are they an okay band? Where do you stand on the whole Weezer thing? Make a video if you're part of the VC. If you're not part of the VC and want to be, make a video. Post your link down there in the comment section. Also comment if you don't want to take time. If you're like, I don't want to spend that much time thinking about Weezer, comment down below. Tell me what you think. I think they're a great band. I think Rivers is a great pop songwriter. I think they make fun, catchy, hooky songs. And even like the worst Weezer albums, the albums that I wouldn't even consider as much as some of the others. Now, there are some that I like more than others. I don't even think they're bad albums. You know, there's a couple that come to mind, and I'm not even going to name them. But I'm sort of like, even when I'm starting thinking, not crazy about that. But if I were to listen to it right now, I'd be like, you know what? It's okay. I'm okay with that album. So that's the way I am. And one last thing, sort of a thought. I mean, I sort of liken it to a quarterback who passes a lot. You know, the thing is, a quarterback who passes a lot, they're going to throw a lot of interceptions. It just goes with the territory. So I look at a band that's been around for 30 years now, and they're still making music. Still making music people care about, seemingly. They're going to have some misses in there. I don't think they're going to have a perfect track record, especially one with that kind of longevity. I can't think of any band that has a perfect track record with any kind of longevity. I mean, maybe there are, but I don't think they're bad. I don't think even the bad Weezer albums are horrifically bad. Like, I can't stand to listen to this. What do you think? Comment down below. Tell me what you think. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for watching. Thanks for being a part of what we're doing here on my channel. As always, we'll see you next time. Thanks for watching.